What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades. First, please forgive the quality of my voice tonight. I have come down sick, guys. Yes, it's true. Baz on Blades has caught the bug. It's the COVID-42, guys. We all know what that means. I have to face it. So this may be the last time. I want to take a chance to say from the bottom of my heart to every one of you guys and gals, kiss my ass. And by that I mean thank you for sticking around with Baz on Blades as we go through a transition sort of on this channel. Some cool stuff to come. Thank you for sticking around. And no, I'm not going to die from the COVID-42. I ran a fever a couple of times. The highest it got was 101. I took one extra strength Tylenol and went and took a nap. And other than that, it's been upper it's been upper respiratory stuff, drainage, sore throat, just common bullshitty stuff. Feels just like mild flu to me. I would just about imagine that's exactly what it is, actually. Anyway, guys, I've got this Ganzo FH921 out here because it is a D2 tool steel bladed knife. And what got me sort of interested in talking about D2 tonight is I just had a very short conversation with a young man on Facebook on one of the groups I'm part of. And there was a thread about the new Civivi Elementum fixed blade, which it looks interesting to me, but apparently they use D2 for the knife. So this young man comes in and does what a lot of young men do. He came in and made an ass out of himself. He came in and started preaching at everybody the America versus China thing, and then started telling the original poster, this is what you need to buy, and naming all this stuff. And we've all heard that sermon before. As part of the knife enthusiast community, we're all very aware of the difference between American-made products and Chinese products, the impact it has on our economy, and what we should or shouldn't be doing. And I've heard that sermon from better people with choirs, and I mean, really, once you get a nice big choir in there to sing, you're not going to beat that. This kid's not going to beat that kind of sermon. But I didn't say anything, and then he went and did it. He did it. He said something bad about D2 tool steel, and that's where I put my foot down. Because when I was young, a lot of you guys don't know this, me and D2 tool steel almost got married and started a family. It was a close thing, and D2 tool steel will always hold a special place in my heart, just like you guys. And I always like taking up for D2 tool steel because the people that don't like D2 tool steel, 100% the reason they do not like it is they want it to be something besides D2 tool steel. D2 tool steel has a very narrow range, performance range, as a blade steel. It's a tool steel used by tool and die departments, builders, tool makers. It's a tool steel. As a blade steel, it's got a sort of a little niche area that it performs really well, and it's cheap and plentiful, and that's the reason, you know, all these manufacturers use D2. I know you're tired of it. It's, you know, D2 did something to you when you were a little kid. He touched you in the wrong place. I don't know. Whatever it is you've got against D2, it is what it is. And what that is a very simple World War II era semi-stainless high carbon tool steel. It misses the stainless qualifier by about 1.5% of chromium. It is not like a carbon steel that will rust if you look at it sideways. D2 is fairly easy to take care of. Honestly, I have no idea how anybody has a hard time with D2. Keep it dry, keep it clean, use some rust inhibitor, mineral oil. I use Tough Glide. I've been using this stuff for years. It's freaking awesome as a rust inhibitor. It's fairly easy to take care of. Now it does have its strong points, and its strong point to me is in its edge retention, the wear resistance. And it's a sort of a strange steel people have a hard time dealing with. It has some very large chromium carbides in it, formed from the chromium and the carbon, and those carbides are fairly large. It's not a fine, refined sort of carbide you may get from some other combinations. What you can get out of D2, you can put a razor sharp edge on it, but that will quickly fade. In my opinion, the razor's edge on D2 is about like 440C. Depending on what you're cutting, it may last a little while, but it's not, it's high performance mark. The high performance mark with D2 is in the toothy working edge that comes after that, and that is because all along that edge is a bunch of super duper hard chromium carbides, and those carbides along that edge, as they become exposed, they start ripping and tearing at a very small scale, a microscopic scale. And it makes for a very aggressive toothy edge, even a slicey edge. It is easy to slice paper with D2 even after you wear down the initial edge, guys. And I've tested Ganzo Firebird's D2, and I did an exorbitant amount of cutting of dirty warehouse media, mostly cardboard, making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cuts on cardboard. And by a cut, I mean no shorter of a cut than 36 inches. And then a lot of cuts were 7, 8, 9, 10 feet long. So I cut a lot of cardboard, guys, and did nothing but strop it back on a dry piece of cardboard, and it felt like I carried that knife for years to work. It just felt like the edge lasted so long. It was probably only about 60 days, but good Lord, 60 days in that kind of environment with continuous use and no sharpening at all, that's pretty decent performance. I mean, did I get the world's best blade ever made of D2? Hell if I know. It was pretty damn good. What was that? That was the Ganzo Firebird FH41. Another nice, thin, slicey grind. So D2 has its good parts. If you're looking for an edge like that falls within the parameters that you are looking for as far as performance, it's a fantastic pick, keeping in mind about the semi-stainless designator for it. If you live right on the salt water on the coast, I don't recommend D2. That's just too much to put on D2. You got salt in the air everywhere. It's just too much. But other people, like I live in East Tennessee, D2, no issue at all, guys. Just keep it clean. One of the weaknesses of D2 comes into play in pocket knives, mostly because they have thinner grinds on them. This knife it's about 14 thousandths behind the edge. I think that's like 0.3 millimeters, something like that, a third of a millimeter. Very thin behind the edge. At that thickness behind the edge, D2 can be a little chippy. It does not have the best impact resistance. Where it has good wear resistance, it does not have good impact resistance. The thinner the blade is, and the harder that it is hardened towards its upper edge, of its Rockwell range, which is typically 59 to 62 working. Max be 64, I believe, on common D2. And I wouldn't want to run it at 64 Rockwell and grind it this thin, guys. I wouldn't do that myself. Now, down around 60 Rockwell this thin, oh yeah. And they've been independently tested. Ganzo's D2 has been independently tested, and it is Rockwell right there in that perfect range. Kudos to them, love them or hate them. They are good with D2. They're good with D2. When some other much more expensive companies have not been real good with D2. So, D2 tool steel. Love it for what it is and don't hate it for what it's not. Because just like I couldn't help when I was born, and I'm a boomer apparently, D2 tool steel cannot help what it is or isn't either. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is this new watch band that I got for the Blackface Casio Duro. It is an urban camo, classic urban camo, 2 shades of gray, black and white. I got that. It's from NATO International off of eBay. I bought multiple straps from them. They're less than 12 bucks shipped, free shipping. Come on. It's like $11.79 or something. And that was my big spending spree for the last money I had coming in. You know, things are tight, you know, but I love that instant gratification too. So I wanted an urban camo strap, found this one and ordered it, and I'm not sure if I like it. And I'm going to tell you why. The face of the watch and the bezel insert are black. They're black. But this strap is made with the softer, shinier material, and it doesn't take dye the same way as the material with the sort of less sheen, the more matted finish on it. And so the black is not really, I mean, this is black right here, and then that's black. I mean, there's a whole big difference. So it's just lighter across a scale, and it's not a bad looking strap, and it's well made. Well made, guys. I'm just not sure what I think about it. I wish it would have been darker, you know, more saturated coloring on it. But, you know, it is what it is. The Duro looks good on anything. I could have put that on a strap made out of freaking French fries and old spaghetti noodles, and it'd be okay. Wouldn't stay on my wrist, but it would look okay. You guys let me know what you think about that, whether it looks okay or doesn't look okay. You know, has anybody had a stroke or a seizure because of the reflections yet? I think I've had 3 seizures so far. Hell yeah. Sorry, guys. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is I want to revisit the Civivi Appalachian Drifter, because I've discovered something I truly love about this knife. If you go back to my review, I wasn't sure about the opening and closing technique. It is a double detent slip joint, but it is built on a ball bearing pivot, and it makes it very unique. Very small flipper tab up here, guys. I mean, it's wonderful as a opening as a flipper. That flipper tab being way forward of the center line of the pivot, man. Very efficient mechanically. Double detent squeezing in. When it breaks those double detents, it just rockets open. Closing it is another thing. Once it breaks the detent, it's got pretty much free wheeling on the bearings. Now, you do have the pressure from 2 detent arms pushing detent balls, so it's not drop shutty. But it is enough to where it instantly closes, and you can see it bounced off of this stop pin and bounced back open. So you've got to be aware of that. Now, there's some other ways you can close it. You can get your thumb right up in here, right before the blade here, and break it right into the notch before the blade. Close it one-handed. Of course, you can pinch it open one-handed also, guys. You know, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it wasn't perfect for me. And I had to forgive it because, good Lord, look at that knife. And it's a Civivi, of course. So it's exemplary in every way. But I discovered, I was just sitting here one day and I was like, you know, it's styled like an old clip point lock bag. And those knives you would have opened and closed two-handed. So I thought, well, I'm going to try it out here. And I discovered I absolutely love this knife as a two-handed opener and closer. And I'm going to tell you why. The extremely stout detents, the ball bearing action is all great for a free running knife to use as a flipper, but you don't feel it. You don't feel it, guys. Once it breaks the detent, you've got no connection to it at all until it thuds into the stop pin. But with this knife, opening and closing it two-handed, you get to feel every inch of that movement. And it is so totally different from what your mind says it should feel like on a classically designed lockback. It is different. This is the first design of this type that I've had on a double detent and bearings. And it is absolutely a joy to open and close two-handed. You get to feel that initial break, okay? You feel that break. You feel those detent balls, the pressure you are placing, the kinetic energy you are placing into that extremely small contact patch of that detent ball down in that detent hole, up against the edge of it. You're breaking across the edge of that hole, and it is just, it's as crisp as the very best bolt action rifle trigger, 1911 trigger. It's that glass rod break. You get to feel that every time. And then as you close it, you're like, oh, wait a second. That's not running on phosphor bronze bushings or nylon or anything. That's something totally different right there. Well, again, we're all used to ball bearing flippers, but we don't get to play. We don't, you know, people, the only thing they want to do is they want to be drop shutty, you know. That's what they want. But you don't spend any time through the entire range that knife moves, that blade, as it opens up. You are feeling everything in there. And then you've got the double detent on the other end, locking it open. And you get that again, that super crisp detent. And it's there. Everything is just, it's just every time. It's not like doing a Spidey flick and only getting that satisfaction when you really nail it. It's built in. All you got to do is open and close it, and you get to enjoy every bit of that. And I am going to tell you right now, I am amazed that such a simple, small thing would make such a huge difference. But it does. Being on that blade and opening it up and feeling it the whole way is such a joy, and closing it, it's the same thing. It's unlike any other knife like this that you've ever had, unless you've had a small knife like this with a double detent and ball bearing pivot. There could be something else out there in the custom world I'm not aware of. There's somebody that does double detents. I can't remember who it is. Somebody very well known that I should remember their name and can't. It is, what is his name? A young guy, starts with a D. He had a design contract. Am I thinking of Diskin? Is it Diskin that did the design stuff with Kershaw a few years ago? I want to say it was Diskin. I think he uses a double detent, doesn't he, in some of his builds? I'm not sure. But, yeah. That's just a joy. It's just a joy, guys. Just a joy to use. The littlest things. The littlest things in life. That is amazing. So, guys, we talked about D2 tool steel. Talked about my watch strap that I'm not sure. I mean, I wish it was just blacker. All right. Now, I bought it now. It's mine now, so I just have to deal with it. I'll go on Facebook and cry about it. Maybe somebody will come in and Facebook pat me on the back and give me a hug. Facebook hug, of course, because not in real life because of the COVID-42. I would be murdering somebody if I hugged them. But, guys, seriously. And we talked about the Civivi, the Appalachian Drifter, and opening it two-handed. We talked about that, too, not to slight the Appalachian Drifter any. I want to say thank you very much. I am fine. This feels like the flu to me. I've got a headache right now because my sinuses are all stopped up. But other than that, it feels like the flu to me, guys. I'd pretty much swear that's what I've got. So don't worry about me. We do have some super duper exciting things coming up. And I'm not just saying super duper because I like saying super duper, which I do like saying. I'm saying super duper because they're actually super duper. And there you go. Just me saying super duper that many times was, guess what? Super duper. As always, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you. And we will talk to you again.